Okay, we're continuing with our game development stuff today. I have a plan for the next push for kind of everything. Today it's going to be a focus on character generation and progression, specifically the level up systems, which are all connected to that. Let's make sure I got the right one here. This should be right because this is the chromosome one. I need to do some version control. I have a backup save on a different hard drive. I just haven't done that. All right. Just a good test that all those features are still there. Hey Benji, glad to hear you liking both channels. Hey Kieran, I forget how we say your name. I'm sorry, I apologize. But welcome back to the stream. I'm so bad with names. It's an ordeal. Okay, so we have the chromosome system. We were debating how to structure all this, and honestly, it's not too important. We're definitely going to hard code it here, because I was thinking about how to approach this for the vertical slice in general, and I think we want the starting demo Carnotaurus to have some randomized genes. So they'll be randomized in a way that wouldn't necessarily be how they'd be randomized in the actual game. Just had a spam message. Just blocking that there on Twitch. Okay. So yeah, it's not necessarily going to be how this dinosaur would necessarily be generated in game directly, but for the demo, it's how we'll do it. So kind of thinking I want essentially an option for every gene, and then they'll be randomized. So rather than worry about this, let's define categories for the genes, and then start filling them out. And then we'll implement the gene effects as we add them. So let me pull up my design spreadsheet, which is not complete. I don't have every single effect I want to put in here for the demo actually created. There's still some more passives and attacks we need to make, but that can wait. So let's go through some other things here. Actually, yeah, let's just do the attacks. Do the attacks, do the passives. So how do we currently set up our attacks? I might move that to this directory. This should be under probably title stuff and hard-coded. Yeah. Yeah, so this will have to change because these are hard-coded cooldowns for the current attack spread. This is bad code. But we'll leave it for now. Yeah, I really want to do Monster Rancher 3. I just haven't found a good time to do it yet. It's a little harder to do because we don't have, an official PC port, so we got to make do. Which is why I didn't do 3 immediately. And then since I didn't do it immediately, it kind of got pushed back and delayed and so on and so forth. Yeah, if you like Monster Rancher content, this game is intended as a spiritual successor to Monster Rancher, so you're in the right place. Forgot where I defined the attack effects. They're here somewhere. This is a fundamental problem that I need to clean up is where I handle some of these definitions. At least in the actual game we probably want them handled maybe in like an external database or something, but for the demo, they just need to be somewhere where I can find them. Hey Landon, how's it going? Hmm. Genuinely have forgotten where these live. Title stuff is defining the attack names, which are then queried in the attack function. But where did I store the actual effects? Let's look at this. If the effect is global.attacks, that, yeah, but where is global.attacks living? See, I probably put it somewhere silly because it would have been generated very early on before we added these other screens outside of the battle screen. Well, when Evo 3 hits, first and foremost, we're doing, the campaign and the challenge modes and stuff. In terms of park builds in the game outside of that, that's going to really depend on what we can do with challenge mode first. And what kind of options they give us, because that'll like influence a little bit what I decide to do. So I'm not going to commit to too much for ideas for park builds until we see what the game is fully capable of. Hey Donut Lord, how's it going? We will probably do, a Jurassic Park scenario, a Jurassic World scenario at some point. Those are some obvious ideas to touch back on, especially with modular building. So definitely want to do that. Dummy attack. This is just a placeholder button. Is my attacks? Oh, attack dictionary. I literally made an object for it. It was right there the whole time. Okay, I just didn't expect this level of foresight to have just attached all this data to an object for easy access here on the sidebar. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's just take the genetic info tab. Um, let's just start a list of the attacks. So this is just going to simply be a list, I guess, of every available attack. Let me think about this. We should probably tier it because I have a plan for the level up system will be semi-randomized but tiered. So like a high tier move won't show up early. Um, so I'll need to think about how to structure that. Yeah, I think we're almost certainly guaranteed to get a Chaos Theory DLC and get it sooner rather than later. The lack of the Camp Cretaceous animals in the game, or let's say the apparent lack of the Camp Cretaceous animals in the game, implies they're already planning that DLC, right? Yeah, I think we'll just follow this syntax here. Because then we can just basically generate, just do it all through lists. So let's just copy the existing attack list because that'll form the basis for this. We're doing tiered attacks, not just in the sense of like when you learn them, but tiered in the sense that they have multiple ranks. So that's one aspect of character progression we'll have. Whoops, I copied the wrong move set. That is the Baryonyx move set. Yeah, there should be a lot of fun community stuff. I don't think we even necessarily know to what degree we can share parks. Like, we know we can share parks, but the thing I was thinking about making a video about this. Do we think you'll be able to share a park like under construction? Like, can you use the park sharing tools that they'll have in 3 to actually kind of generate a scenario for other people to play through? That's what I'm wondering. It'd be really cool if they let you actually generate like a mission list or something that you could give other players, but that might be a little optimistic, a little bit more than maybe we should expect. Yeah, so here's the base move set. Kick is a generic, that's so that doesn't count. Um, so we're gonna do say 3 tiers. So tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And then it's going to pull from these tiers to populate the genetic code, and the genetic code dictates what moves you have access to at different levels, and then it's going to be randomized. Yeah, there's a lot of skin potential for a Chaos Theory DLC for sure. So these are the moves we have currently in the game. The Baryonyx has Tail Slap, which is also intended to be available to the Carnotaurus. So that's already in the game. Now, the question is, how do I want to separate these tiers? You know what? Do I want these to actually be numeric tiers, or do I want it like a dominant recessive type thing? Or both? See, these are the little details that I'm like still debating exactly how. Like I have the vision exactly for how a creature levels up, but it's the behind the scenes nuts and bolts of how the level up stuff is selected that I'm still debating slightly. I don't know if the sandbox maps will be unlocked. I don't even know what the current situation in 3 or in 2 is with the sandbox maps. So I would expect that whatever they do in 2 is probably what they do in 3. We don't even know that Junior's in the game for the Rexes. I think let's not worry about tiering these. We'll do dominant and recessive. I think. Because the moves will scale up on their own anyway. So it doesn't really make sense to separate them out as much. Yeah, I think this is better. So the only way you get a recessive move or trait is if you have double genes for that. The chromosomes match. Otherwise, the dominant trait overrules the recessive. The recessives are rare and more powerful, is the idea. And I think with the recessive dominant system, we don't need tiers. So, the other attacks I have fought up are... Let's just do it like this. Let's just populate this and then think about which of these seem like they should be special. Mule kick, bite, rend, tackle, rip and tear. Oops, missed a comma. Also wrote rackle instead of tackle, which is incredible work. Gotta make sure we don't have any dupes. Yeah, paralytic bite was the one we had before. Rip and tear, feeding frenzy, growl, challenging roar, rake, jaw lock, ready to tail slap, pierce, gore, bull rush, and spear. So these are the spread of attacks I have concepts for. What do I want the dino game to be? Well, it should be an entire system of raising dinosaurs for battle with multiple modes of battle and different style tournaments. And eventually other features like a system for going on expeditions, dinosaur breeding, and hybridization. It should be highly replayable and variable with a lot of roguelike elements added to it. Yeah. It's kind of the concept. So, I have not considered which moves should be dominant tier moves versus which ones should be recessive. Most of these should be dominant. Well, I suppose logically it should be like an even split, maybe. Should it be even or should it be 2-1? Conceptually. Like if you actually want a chance for the demo to actually roll a recessive attack. I guess any two recessives would be a recessive gene being expressed, though. So if it's a coin flip, let's think about this. So if we have, oh, that shows up. Why does that immediately show up? Where is that being drawn from? That is being drawn from this window here. Well, I mean, that's convenient, I guess, because I wanted to show this, but didn't expect it to appear. So if you have a standard dominant recessive kind of little gene diagram you draw in like elementary school or whatever, it would be like this. So you would have dominant, you would have dominant, you would have dominant. And then this is the only case where you get the recessive trait, right? So if these are 4 different traits, you would see the dominant trait Um, well, you would have a 50% chance of any given dominant here, and then it would be guaranteed here. This one would be guaranteed here. So you only have a 12.5% chance for recessive for a particular recessive trait. So this is R1, we get 12.5 R1. And then for a dominant trait, it would be 37.5%. So for dominant trait number 1. Right, 37.5, 75%, 25%. Yep. So this makes a dominant trait 3 times more common. So the odds of D1 are 3 times R1. So if we have 3 times the amount of dominant traits, then we would get an even split. You would be essentially the same odds of seeing a given recessive trait as a dominant trait if we had 3 times as many. So that's the threshold we don't want to cross. Yeah, hard to say who the male that is in that lineage for the Camp Cretaceous T-Rex is. We're missing more than just the 7th Rex, right? Because it's like Rexy, the 2 in Lost World, the JP3 Rex, and then the Big Edie, right? So it's only 5 out of 7 that are known. Because Little Edie's 2nd generation. And presumably the Rebirth Rex doesn't count. But honestly, the 7 Rex thing, probably not really even canon anymore. So anyway, back to this. I think what we do, if we do twice as many dominant traits as recessive traits for the game, that might be the way to do it. Because that would make the dominant traits more common. Like any given dominant trait would be more likely to be seen. So let me think about this for another second. In terms of the attack spread for the Rex, or for the Carnotaurus, I mean, you got me thinking about T-Rexes now. It has 18 guaranteed attack genes, and then a variety of flex slots, of which we already have a few of those as attacks too. So if we see, say we see like 26 genes, just as an example, because it is flexible. And then we do a 2-to-1 split, we would be looking at like, yeah. Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, essentially 18 to 9. So an 18 to 9 split, dominant and recessive genes. If we do a 2-to-1, so you would expect out of these slots, well, that's not counting the double chromosomes. So it'd probably be like, I don't know, a third of this ultimately, but that would still be like 3 recessive genes successfully expressed. That's not bad. I think this works. I think this is okay. Okay. So yeah, we'll do 2-to-1 dominant to recessive traits question mark. We'll just give that a try for the demo. We can always adjust this down or up later. We don't even really know to what degree baby dinosaurs in GW3 even have parents. Like, there's, do the behaviors we've seen the babies do, like, are those actually specific to their parents, or are they just doing them? That kind of thing. Okay, so now the next question is, how many moves do I actually want? I think basically, yeah, doubling up what I had here. We want something along the lines of like 40-ish moves. But we have moves rank up, so they can be repeated. So in that sense, this is actually probably already enough moves, technically. Okay, so then we got to think about dominant versus recessive ones here. So we got 20 moves currently. So if we just called it 21, we just make up one more right now. We do a 14-7 split. I mean, yeah, junior skin could be a thing they do sneak into launch. It would make sense to have some film baby skins, but we'll see. If not at launch, it does make sense as a DLC to see down the road. There's enough film juveniles they could do it. So yeah, I mean, my favorite Rexes are definitely the Rebirth Rex and then like the Buck T-Rex from Lost World. As far as like breeding pairs, it's probably just going to come down to like circumstance. I mean, definitely like when at launch, we're going to want to check out some of the male skins, the non-film skins. So we'll be using those primarily initially, at least. So the recessive attack should be exciting. So like paralytic bite, I think is a good one. Maybe mule kick is like an upgraded type of kick. Maybe rend. Rip and tear, feeding frenzy. Gore's potentially a good one. So these 7 could do. Bull Rush, Gore, Feeding Frenzy, Rip and Tear, Rend, Mule Kick, and Paralytic Bite as maybe the recessive, more powerful moves. I don't know if Rend belongs on that list. Maybe we come up with a new one here for Rend. Rend sounds basic enough that maybe we want to leave it as basic. Okay. So I don't have effects for all these attacks yet, necessarily. So that's another thing to look at. The recessive ones can kind of be upgraded versions. I don't know if we'd see the next snap. Has that been in any of the evolution games? I don't do dinosaur fights enough to notice something like that. What is a good attack move for a Carnotaurus here? Do we have anything on the Baryonyx that we could just like, give to the Carno too? Um, Shake Off. Let's give him Shake Off. Who would win, Ceratosaurus or Baryonyx? My gut instinct is Baryonyx, but I would need to look up the size difference again. But Cerato's not a particularly large theropod. Baryonyx probably also has some weight on it because Spinosaurids have denser bones generally. Although there might be some differences in like bite force that would make up the difference for Cerato. I'm not too sure. Hey, Quaza. Yeah, hopefully we could do some cool ecosystem site B type stuff in 3 with like breeding. I'm not really optimistic because like the GW1 and 2 are not very good for site B type builds, but we can remain hopeful. We don't need to be optimistic to be hopeful. Do we think Shake Off could be like a recessive for Carnotaurus? Because like Shake Off being available to Baryonyx as the dominant trait and a recessive for Carnotaurus is kind of fun. Plus, it would be good to have a recessive support move here. So I think having this cleanse effect be recessive only is potentially interesting. Do I plan on using the Jurassic World versions of the accurate ones? Which one? What are you talking about there with? Or you just thought generically? I mean, personally, for me, I use whichever version I find most aesthetically pleasing. Unless I'm doing a film themed build, then I'll specifically use the film versions. That's just kind of true for anything. Okay, so these are all our tags. So let's take these lists, add these effects to, well, do we need to add these now? Maybe. Let's add these later, because I can think between episodes, between streams, what I want to do with all these moves exactly, because I don't have exact concepts for most of these. Okay, then we got our passive and our passive traits, both dominant and recessive, in the same way. So we're going to generate a list of these. What map am I going to try first? We're going to probably do. We'll do the campaign and then we'll do the challenge modes in order. I usually just like to go in whatever order they're presented in the game. And then for custom builds, it will really depend on concept and what maps I like after I've played them in the campaign and the challenge modes. Yeah, it does seem that pack hunting is nerfed, which is a good change. Pack hunting was a bit absurd. And it's a good idea talking about the unfit and hunger traits on the carnivores to tone them down a bit, and to it does help. All right, so for attack or passive traits here, these I have most effects for. For the ones I have, I know what they do, is what I'm saying. So we have Steel Trap, which is an attack booster. Anticoagulant Saliva, which I think will be a recessive trait. Osteoderms. Extended Horns. I need to rename this, I think. Fuck it. We can rename things later, it doesn't matter. Serrated Teeth. The problem with serrated teeth as a trait is that, like, a lot of carnivores already have serrated teeth. So, it doesn't exactly make sense. Paralysis resist. Is it called Weaken specifically? I don't remember. These should match the names. Yeah, I never really cared about the prereqs to unlock things in Sandbox because Sandbox was always the last thing I played. Yeah, the campaign sounds like it'll be nicely long, 80 to 100 hours if you 5-star everything. Hard to say if that's, 80 to 100 hours if you know what you're doing, right? Weaken. It is weaken, not weakness. Bleed, weaken, fear, paralysis, stagger. Okay. All right, catch you later. Have fun walking your Spino, I guess. So weaken, paralysis, stagger, fear, and bleed. I think we'll follow the same like 2-to-1 thing here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 currently. Nine to 1. Definitely Regenerator is recessive. 100%. Smell of blood. 9 and 3. Long game. Start strong, are counterparts of each other. So we'll put those both as recessives. One more recessive trait to balance this out. True grit. Okay, then we should have 3 more here. Whoops. Quick recovery. Desperation. Aggressive. Be aggressive. Enduring. So that's every passive I've currently cooked up. So these I know what they all do. These are all generated. So we're going to focus on adding these rather than the attacks. Yeah, 50 hours is still pretty good for a campaign. No, we don't have attack animations. We just have placeholder. Yeah, here, let me show you. It's easier. Assignment operator. Yes, this is... Wait. Why doesn't this work? Well, anyway, we don't have attack animations. Just placeholder, like, cartoon sound effect type animation. Let me... Why did I... Does it not let me do equals a list? Is that just like a thing? Because this is looking for a data struct. That might be it. Like, does it want this? Assignment operator expected. It's the same line. Assignment operator was expected. Wait a second. Then that doesn't. But that does. Oh, global dot. Whoops. Okay, there's the syntax error. That was just a... That's just a me forgetting things. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so all we have here for placeholders, that's the attack animation, just little POW signs. Where the speed at which they show is actually the animation duration, which is actually coded in. So we don't have specific animations, just the generic placeholder, but the speed does change. Animation work is not my strong suit, so there's going to be a lot of visual placeholder for the game until it's much further along. Basically, until I feel like it's worth maybe hiring an artist. Kind of the idea. Most of what I have animation wise is just an attempt to understand how the animation code works rather than an attempt to actually animate anything. Okay. We will be starting the GWE2 finale park this weekend, yes. I got it planned. It's not going to be anything fancy. It's actually going to be deliberately not fancy. It's going to be a very unmodded park to specifically, experience JWE2 in its final form. Okay, so these are all the passives currently that are going to be in the game. Let's do a new object for a place to just store this info, just to follow the syntax we've been doing. This is going to be our... should I call these passives? I guess that's fine. Doesn't matter what we call this internally, because we can always change the name externally. Who wins Buck or Spino from JP3? I mean, realistically, a T-Rex beats a Spino, like, every time. Like, the Spinosaurus should have died the moment the Rex got its jaws around it. If one species I planned on using or was using ends up making it into the game, we remove it from the park. And if the park is done and then an animal is revealed at the last moment to have made it, we just shrug. Is what it is, right? Yeah, I mean, the idea is hopefully this is a quicker park build. But we've got like three streaming sessions to finish it in. That's pretty typical. It shouldn't be that bad. I'm not going to go crazy on like decorating because we're not using any mods or any substantial mods, which means, it won't be us building some crazy, canyons and shit like that. So, because we just can't into without mods. So it should go quicker. Like the last park build especially took a long time just because of how much time it took to build things. So that'll be not such an issue. All right, so let's implement these into the game now. I want to follow the syntax we use for the attack dictionary as much as I can. So let's copy that over as just an example. So we define an individual one, and then we just generate this global data structure where the effects live. Same idea here. Honestly, calling this passives is also probably better internally because this may be split up into two categories. The things you always have and the things you could have. We'll see exactly how we handle that in the after playtesting a bit. What new species am I most looking forward to in 3? Oh man, that's a hard call. I really like the Loki. I also really like Ornithomimus. The feathered Ornithomimasaur is something I've wanted for so long. So in some sense, Ornithomimus is kind of my favorite because it's the thing I wanted from like one of the things from I wanted from JW2 DLC that we didn't get that we did get in 3. Like they haven't given me my new Abelosaurid, they haven't given me my new Spinosaurid, but they did give me my feathered Ornithomimasaur. So I like that we have that. Guanlong has gone up a lot in my rankings since the preview weekend. So Guanlong is looking really nice. Yeah. Yep, I'm a night owl, so it's not so conducive to European time usually. So the one more new animal thing, I think people are reading into that too much. They're saying that the Ornithomimus was in the database after all the other new species, instead of before where we knew the gap was, and therefore the gap still exists. But Metriacanthosaurus was put behind, And people took this to be a mistake. I take this to be deliberate, that the animals they're adding to the database now are just being added to the end of the list, if they haven't been previously revealed, just as a kind of a concealing factor. I do think though that like there is probably another animal to be revealed, because there's I think there's almost no chance we don't get some sort of medium to large carnivore for release. So I am pretty convinced that there is still an animal to see. I just don't think the database argument is a good one anymore since they're onto us. They know we know. I think it's much better than 50-50, but yeah, people are acting like it's guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. That's my take on it. Okay, so we don't need all these stats for the passives here. These are scaling effects. They should have a description. I might want to just do these honestly like this. A name and a description, and the description dictates how it works. Because I don't think we can like modularize passives as easily as we can attacks into different categories. So I think this is just kind of all we have to do. Yeah, the YouTuber event. I mentioned that in the news video offhand. We don't know what they were up to. I saw some interesting speculation on Reddit that like, maybe they were invited in to do something that will have some bearing on the game, like take pictures as a placeholder scientists or whatever, or not placeholder, but as like guest scientists, or possibly to like design buildings that would be included with the game release, stuff like that. Kind of some like semi-promotional in-game shit, which would make sense why they aren't talking about it yet, but it's also completely speculatory. Let's just leave one example here. As an example, okay, so let's just start doing these and then think about if we need to change how we store these. So, first one we got is Steel Trap. Steel Trap is a simple damage buff. I know what we need to do. We need a scale effect. Because these do scale, we just need the rate at which the effect scales. So how do we want to set that up in terms of descriptions? Hmm. Because I could just do a generic description like bite attacks deal additional damage. For instance. I don't know why Swerve is invited to that shit, honestly. It's kind of crazy. What is my favorite depiction of Dilophosaurus? I am a big fan of the newer paleo accurate version with the more jagged head crests, kind of like what we the basis for like the mod we used for the Kenner Park build. I like that style of Dilophosaurus a lot. Yeah, I would like Swerve is sometimes a source of good information, unfortunately. It's just you never know until after the fact when Swerve is full of shit. I mean, sometimes it's very obvious that Swerve is full of shit, but I mean, when he actually has good info, it's so hard to know. It's like the fucking kid that cried wolf type thing. Um, hmm. How do we, if we assume, okay, the thing is, I might want to scale passive effects multiple times, right? I might want something that says, like, 10% of bite attacks deal 10 additional damage, and then it scales up to like 20% deal 20 additional damage, or even scales separately. So I need to think about how I would store that in a way that is usable with everything. I like the JP dialogue quite a lot too. Like I think I am a big fan of it. It is highly speculative and incorrect creature, but it's a aesthetically pleasing and interesting design. And it is more important to me that a Jurassic film dinosaur be visually appealing and an interesting creature than it be completely accurate. Which isn't to say that I don't appreciate accuracy too, right? Yeah, see that's the thing, right? If you take Swerve with like a gallon of salt, since he is, a clickbaiter type person, he probably will inadvertently or deliberately leak shit. That's absolutely plausible. Although, I mean, most of the GW3 leaks we had came from even smaller YouTubers. There was the German leaks. I forget the name of that one. And then there was some other smaller YouTube channel that leaked footage early too. So even Swerve is slightly more disciplined than some of the other people. But it's hard out there for small channels. We gotta cut whatever corner we can to get some content out. Yeah, a lot of the knockoff JP style dialos suck just because they're knockoffs. Let's do this like this. We'll just store the descriptions as a list. And then we store the scales as a list as well. So if this does 10% bonus damage for every rank of Steel Trap, then the tooltip will be like bite attack steel 10. Okay, but what about percent versus flat bonuses? Oh yeah, Dirt Dandy Man was the leaker. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is absolutely the one who leaked JW3 footage. I knew I would recognize the name if it was said. And that is it. Was Jurassic Resort a leaker too then? Because I knew there was another leaker, but the second one I didn't remember the name of it all. Okay, this is okay. What if we do? Okay, was the leaker? That makes perfect sense. We could do something like this, where we store in a category whether it's a percent or a flat value. Yeah, I think they both had to take down their videos, from what I remember. Hmm. So bite attacks deal 10% additional damage. I'm trying to think about other situations. So we would have percentage percents or like integers. We would have scales. These are both configured as lists in case there's multiple ones. And then we would need a way to parse the descriptions. So that's what we need to think about. So let's make some notes. I could also have the description be separate from the actual effects. That might be better. So if we do, call this class, then we do an effect. We do the effect as a more parsable statement for the code, and this is just the more readable statement for the player. I think I like that. Yeah, the event build probably was a fair bit older. I think listen to feedback is a generic enough statement that you can't read into it. I also heard that Swerve got more time than anybody else with the uh, playtest build, which was like crazy. I don't know if he just slipped in advertently somehow a second time, or if like there was some sort of weird favoritism there for some reason. But like that's nuts. Like very much a him type moment. So how do we want to format the effect for the code? Um, yeah, you got like double playtime for some reason. So we could potentially have things like attacks deal extra damage. We could have categories like bite attacks deal extra damage. We could have bite attacks have extra crit chance. You could have combinations of those. So we want an effect that easily captures all of this. Yeah, just imagine if there was like a mistake or he cheated and took advantage of it somehow. That it's weird that they would invite him back immediately to this new event. Oh, his footage got corrupted and Frontier allowed him a second session. But doesn't he? Does he have 3 hours of footage, or did the original footage get lost? Because like I didn't watch his stuff on purpose. I deliberately did not watch his footage, so I didn't actually see how much he had uploaded. So it could be we could do something like this, like attack, buff, damage. Something generic like that. Because then we could have like attack buff crit, attack buff, yada yada yada. That might work. Maybe he legitimately salvaged the footage, or maybe yeah, he might just lied. I mean, he might have legitimately thought it was borked, and then it turned out to be salvageable or something. Like I have recordings that are corrupted that I was able to put in software, uh, some recording editing software, and like recover the footage back. Like even though it wouldn't play on the computer natively, the recording software could recover it and then just re-export it to save the footage. I've done that a couple times. Especially like when there's like power outages or OBS crashes mid recording, it like corrupts it, but it's salvageable. So it could be something like that. But maybe he knew it would work, and so he did and kind of lie to them. Who knows? I think we'll go with this for now for the formatting. I think this works. So let's add all these. So steel trap, osteoderms. All right. Scaling of osteoderms. How do we want to handle this? This will be scaling as an integer effect. Hmm. What is our damage scaling like currently? $15, $25, $10. Call it 10 to 30-ish maybe. Yeah, best in slot's all right. I don't watch too many people who do other Jurassic content, especially not anymore now that I'm doing my own, but um never really had anything against best in slot, so I don't know, maybe we just scale this at 1. Oh, there's some very, very late to the game King Cretaceous blowback, huh? Grifters are probably, running out of shit to complain about, so they gotta dig deeper, maybe. Okay, so this is gonna be a damage reduction effect. Applying to kind of all categories of damage. Yeah, I think since this is a global DR effect, scaling it at 1 makes sense. Every attack. Did I have any other stipulations on this? No. So the idea here is a damage reduction effect that is not strictly universal. Yeah, but that would require them to actually watch the show, right? If there's some grifter shit going on, they probably just heard about it from somewhere and they're probably basing all their arguments off each other's own grifts. So yeah, editing can be pretty rough. I don't do very hardcore editing to the channel's detriment, like mostly because it's so time consuming I can't really justify it. I've got some more like some of the videos are edited a bit more than others. I've got some like pretty heavy edited stuff on the other gaming channel, but not much of it. How do I code this effect to like exclude critical hits? I guess we do it like this. So this will be recognized as if damage reduction apply to global except for criticals. I think. I don't know, because the girls kind of broke up in Chaos Theory. Maybe the grifters think they've already won that. But then I guess it doesn't make sense to complain about the prequel. But nothing the grifters do makes much sense. Representation matters. It is fundamentally a kids show, and it's nice to have some characters that kids might relate to. As an adult, yeah, I don't give a fuck. But it's not, I'm an adult white male. Representation in media is not for me. All right, next move is extended horns. This is just another variation on steel trap. Going to be a lot of data entry today. Um, oh yeah, we didn't specify the attack subtypes in here. Attack buff to bites damage. Yeah, the JWE subreddit not the best, especially not now. There's a lot of like the same shit gets posted over and over again. A lot of complaining about relatively minor things, which serves to drown out complaining about the more important things. And like the fact that people are already posting, I saw recently somebody posted like a Rebirth DLC concept and it had like double digit upvotes, and I'm just like, what the fuck are you people doing? Why are we posting the obvious Rebirth DLC inclusions and then upvoting that on top of that? That's crazy. Yeah, the only thing confusing to fucking children is when you don't have representation for them and then they just feel confused about themselves. Like, but don't expect fucking right wing grifters to understand any of that shit. Like, legitimately, the whole like, oh, gay characters are confusing. That's just a lie. They just don't want representation in children's media so that those kids end up being repressed like they were. Bury it all deep down. Become a pastor or a priest. Serrated teeth. So, serrated teeth adds bleed chance to bite attacks. Well, the big thing with the US is that violence has always been okay for all ages. Violence is fine. Sexual content, dirty secret. Don't talk about that. Ooh. So, this is I guess, call it a modifier? Attack modifier that applies to a bite and adds bleed. Okay, and then bite attacks have a X% chance to cause a bleed. So how do we handle the magnitude of the added bleed effect? Hey Fry, how's it going? We are coding our spiritual successor to Monster Rancher, except it's dinosaurs. Maybe we do this. Let's do this. We do base, scale, and class. So base 0, base 1, scaling 1 by 0. And this is an integer effect. So cause a bleed, comma, number, period. So we do wait, what? If the damage is not lower than what does extended horns have over bite? These are passive effects that are specifically modifying different attack damage types. So steel trap and extended horns could both be on the same thing, and they both scale the same because they're kind of generic damage boosters. I'm definitely more hyped for Evo 3 than Chaos Theory. I'm kind of done with Chaos Theory, honestly. Season 3 really lost me. Not like overtly horrendously bad, but like didn't feel like it was really going anywhere that I was terribly interested in. I mean, I'm still going to watch it, of course, and react to it, and maybe it'll, be more interesting. Maybe it'll excite me more, but oh, I'm missing the comma here. That's why. But we'll see. So yeah. So these should all have a base value of 0. Because the first scale is always applied. So this is 0 plus 10, 0 plus 20, 0 plus 30. This is 0 plus 10 and 1, 0 plus 20 and 1, 0 plus 30 and 1 for the different scaling effects. The only thing with the Rebirth DLC is I do really want the Rex. I really do like the Rex. But also, like, the return of Suchomimus is pretty awesome, too, so... Okay, so I think that works. I think this is pretty parsable by the code when we write the actual code. Next passive is the first of the many resists. Let's just grab all these. So these are, oops, the generic. Okay, we don't need the full title, just so I remember that we're doing all these. These are all pretty generic. Much like the damage boosters, these are intended to be widespread. Widespread and not very special. Base 0, we're going to scale this by 10% as well. This is going to be... Let's just call this resistance, maybe? Resistance, comma, paralysis. That should be generic enough that that should be all we can really do with that. I think it's one idea I saw floated on Reddit was the idea that a Norognathus would be in the Rebirth DLC and we get Geolopterus in the free update with the insect feeder. That way the insect feeder is not attached to DLCs and they can use it in subsequent DLCs and updates. I think that's a really smart approach, which may mean it may not happen. So I guess we just do this. Chance to resist paralysis. Do we think that chance is too high? I think that chance is too high. Let's scale this by 5% per rank. So a maximum of a 15% resist chance for a status effect. I think that's the way to do it. Weaken. 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 Oops. And we need the rename here. The compy babies didn't look that much smaller than the adults, like 2/3 the size or something. So memes aside, they won't be that hard to see. I am still shocked they're even adding them though. Like, it is another angle of the game that like really went different than I was expecting, because I was fully expecting them to just be just to spawn them as adults. Like, that seemed like such an obvious thing to do that I was like, yeah, that's just what they're gonna do. But no, they went ahead and actually gave him a baby. Fear, stagger, and now we got bleed. That's the last one of these. The one that will be most beneficial for the vertical slice demo, on account of the Baryonyx's bleeds being pretty powerful. Yeah, Mutadons are going to be a weird addition. As a creature that can fly, but is like very terrestrial. It's kind of weird. All right, next we got Quick Recovery, Desperation, Aggressive, and Enduring. So these passives, a bunch of these act with Guts regeneration. Stamina, that is to say. So, Quick Recovery to the spreadsheet. Bonus stamina generation when stamina is low. And let's gamify it. One and say 10, 5, 10. It would be funny to just Stortus just like died upon being generated. These are both integer modifiers. Stamina is below, let's do it like this, 10, 1. Stamina is below 10. Gain an additional 1 stamina per second. Ooh, is it per second? How do I... Yes. Sure. Now the real question is, does this effect matter? Yeah, I'm sure we'll use D-Rex on the channel just about as much as we use any of the other hybrids, which is to say, never outside of releasing one just to see it in the first place, and if we ever do a park build tied directly to the animal. Like if we do a rebirth park build, it'll have a Distortus in it, and we will do a rebirth park build of some kind at some point, maybe. Honestly, the rebirth park build, like if it's a campaign DLC, probably that's just our park build, because I doubt I'll do another one. Rebirth doesn't lend itself well to an actual park. Okay, stamina's below 10, gain additional 1 per second. Or if stamina's below 20, gain additional 2. Or if it's below 30, gain an additional 1. I think we should scale this differently. I think, let's do it like this. The scale is the threshold below which the extra stamina kicks in, but the stamina bonus is always just 1. I think that's better. I think 3 below 30 gets to be insane. Maybe. And then if we did the other way with a fixed threshold for stamina, then it's also not very good. I think we'll test this. Oh yeah, we need this this here. So we'll call this stamina gain. So we gain a stamina. Okay, so we have the condition. Maybe low stamina? That's how we phrase that? Low stamina, then it looks for the 10, and then it says stamina gain, which tells it that the 1 is a bonus to stamina. I think that works. Yeah, the stamina regen really does depend on the cost and like the flow of combat. Here, let me show you the game fry. Let me show you where we're at. Oh, wait, we need to fix this. We have a glitch. This. Oh, yeah, this is... Comment that shit out. All right, we got a title screen that's garbage. We got our ranch screen. Literally stole the background from Monster Rancher, of course. We got stress, age, hunger. A lot of these don't have penalties associated with them, but they're tracked. You can train, raise your stats, the days increment, time increments, hunger increments. You automatically feed the dinosaur currently when you reach the hunger 100% threshold, and then your currency balance dips down. The tournament is a single generic fight right now, but it's fully implemented with some placeholder combat music. So it's kind of my twist on Monster Rancher battles. You know, this pseudo real-time system. Stamina is basically guts. I'm gonna lose because I'm bleeding now. All, of course, very crude, given that I'm not an artist. All the placeholder animations are obviously very placeholder. We're gonna die! Somehow I'm still hanging in there. I'm waiting for the heal. If I can get a good devour off, we can heal some. Yeah, there we go. Still alive? Not for much longer. Okay, we lost. We lose every fight. The Baryonyx is too powerful. He can't be stopped. But that's what we got so far. So we're adding passives. So that's what these are, but they're not like implemented. Yeah, the guts rate. Carnotaurus guts rate is 3. Baryonyx guts rate is 4. And then in terms of what that actually means, yeah, I think it's. I don't remember if it's 3 per second or per tick or what. Let's see here. I don't think it was in status handler. Let's see. Maybe layout. Per step. Global dot player character stamina plus equals the new rate. So fear reduces the rate at which you gain stamina. Global PC dot stam over room speed. So this is 1 when you don't have fear. This would be like the 3, and the room speed would be 60, and then this would happen every tick. Yeah, so it's per second. Yeah. It's 3 per second. Unless I modified that. Let's just time it. Let's just jump back in here and make sure that's actually the way it works. No, that's about 3 per second. Yeah. Yeah, 3 per second. Yeah, so for the passive, so this is saying when you're below 10, you're effectively gaining roughly 25 to 33% stamina rate, which effectively, worst case scenario, will get you out of the 10 threshold in like 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Then on a higher rank value, you'd be gaining this 20 to 30% stamina bonus for a while, kind of like the whole time if you're staying below the threshold. But the balancing thing there is guts correction, right? Your attacks are less effective if you have less guts. So this is adding a nice twist on playstyle of like you can maintain a faster guts regeneration rate if you're at low stamina, low guts, but you're going to be at a, guts correction is going to be your worst enemy. So I think this is fine as it stands. We're also not super worried about fine-tuning the abilities exactly, because this is just a vertical slice. This is not even necessarily intended to be like anything like the actual final product. Just full demo of game systems. Yeah, I do like that it adds a different playstyle though. All right, this is Desperation, which is bonus damage and crit rate when HP is low. That's this is the most complex ability so far. Well, health is below some value, gain an additional value damage and value critical hit chance. So this has three parameters to it: what the health threshold is, what the damage bonus is, and what the crit bonus is. I think I want this to be fairly dramatic. Um, so we'll do a scale rate of 5%, so below 5, 10, 15%. Then there's the damage bonus and the crit bonus. I think a moderate damage bonus, like 10 scaling, is maybe not bad. So 10, 20, 30% damage bonus. And then I want the crit to be like the most dramatic effect of this. So I'm thinking we do 10, 20, 30% increased crit rate initially. Because the window that this is going to apply in is going to be very narrow. So I think we'll do that. So 5, 10, 10. So low health. Well, low health, apply attack buff. Breeding will be a major mechanic, yeah. Not just breeding in the sense of mashing animal A and animal 2 together, but also just like the collection of genetic material and like separate genes and combining genomes. So there'll be traditional natural breeding, but also like gene splicing. Yeah, the babies can die in GW3. Saw this. So it's a low health, apply an attack buff. Hybrids are planned for like an eventual kind of post-release update type thing. Also planned for hybridization systems to be a little more involved than just mashing animal A and animal 2. Animal A and animal 2, animal 1 and animal 2, or animal A and animal B together. Because you can have subsequent generations of hybridization where you can have like individual chromosomes get transferred from one animal to another. You could have a thing that's like 90% dinosaur species A, 9% species B, and then like a single chromosome that is transferred down through generations from an entirely separate species. Because it is going to be like a full chromosomal gene system that controls like the internal stats, moves, and everything for the animals. So it should be like from my design notes, when fully implemented, it should be kind of a crazy system for breeding. Like I haven't even put any thought into like how complicated and obtuse it might be to breed the perfect animal, but that's good. How goofy will the hybrids be? My thought process is if we stick with like the pixel art style, I want things like horns and other like distinctive traits to kind of be flagged as separate sprites, so that if you say were to combine a Triceratops with a Tyrannosaurus, you would have and you had a hybrid that was mostly Tyrannosaurus, you would flag certain features of the Triceratops, like maybe the horns, to be transferred to the Tyrannosaurus. So there would literally be like a defined spot on a sprite that internally in the code it would know to like as an attachment point for you to like take the Triceratops horn sprite and like attach that to the hybrid. That's the system I kind of envision. It's actually drawing from how the sprites work in Pokemon Black and White. Because the way they did the animated sprites in Pokemon Black and White is they had separate sprites for the different pieces of the Pokemon, and then to animate them, they would move the sprite pieces relative to each other to like simulate animation. And so that's kind of my idea for how to do the hybrid system. Yeah, so we would have like internally in the genetic sequences for the animals, we would have some sort of flag on like whether or not a horn is expressed in the hybrid. So I don't want it specifically like, oh, this thing is some specific percentage of Triceratops, so it has horns. It'll be connected to the genes, and if the gene for horns transfers to the hybrid will have horns. That's the idea. So to use the Suezo example, Suezo would have a gene for a single eye, and if that gene happened to transfer to your Suezo slash tiger hybrid, then you would have a one-eyed tiger. It'll be implementing this. I know how to implement all this in terms of code and effect. The real question will be how well can we actually implement this system visually, right? And that is what we pay an artist for, so we don't have to do it. So how do we tell the code? How do we want to tell the code that there are two separate buffs being applied here? Because right now, this is following the same syntax as this. This is saying apply an attack buff to a horn subtype attack that is a damage buff. So how do we equate that effect with this for optimization of code? So I think we do this. We do attack buff, low health, and then here we do attack buff. We tell the code always. For like an unconditional, like always apply this. Actually, we could probably integrate it. No, yeah, we should have this separate. The check for the condition, like kind of just two conditional checks in a sense. There's some weird things going on with the choices for the female and male designs and skins. And some of that stuff might still be being worked on, who knows. So this is attack buff. It only triggers at low health. It applies to all types of attacks. It modifies. I guess we do this. We just do damage and critical. And then we make the code parse this statement looking for ands. So this would be like potentially damage and hit and critical, etc., so on and so forth. And then it sees low health, it'll look for the 5. It sees the modifiers, it will look for the 2 more values, it'll find those. That should work. Once we write the parsing code, of course. That being its whole own thing. All right, the aggressive passive. Aggressive is refunds stamina on critical hits. I think it might be fun for this to be a flat value rather than a percentage, so that there is a tactical benefit if you're a high crit rate to using small attacks, because you can actually generate stamina. Let's try it that way. So critical hits generate 5, 10, or 15 stamina depending on the rank of aggressive. Um, we'll call this an attack modifier, I think. Follow the syntax here from Serrated Teeth. Maybe. I think so. I think that's good. Attack modifier to all attack types. Critical. Just call it gain stamina. Okay, so then here we should add attack modifier to bite. Under all conditions, add bleed. Yeah, there'll be crit rate is variable. It's part of the attack. Like here, let's look at the attacks again. So yeah, crit is just literally an effect on an attack. So damage hit and crit rate are just basic parameters. But there will be, you know, other things that can modify crit rate eventually. So ideally, like you would have this passive effect that increases stamina or gives you stamina refund on crits. You would combine this hopefully with something else to increase critical hit rates, and then yeah, moves like Razor Leaf equivalents that also have high crit rates just to capitalize on an aggressive build. This is the kind of thing we're trying to do, is have these sort of traits that like traits and attacks that combine in interesting ways to give it a bit of a roguelike feel of like how you build a character. Like I want raising an animal to feel a little bit like you're playing a roguelike. Like seeing what kind of traits you get access to and how you can make those into an effective build. Then, you know, the breeding adds another angle to that in that, oh, I have an aggressive Carnotaurus and I have this Carnotaurus with like a high crit rate. Well, if I breed these guys together, can I get a high crit rate Carnotaurus with aggressive? That would be great. Okay, I think that's good. Next, enduring. Enduring is gain defense every time you are hit by an attack. We'll scale this. We'll do this 0 to 1. Base 0 scales by 1. We'll call this probably just a buff. Yeah, death. Okay. We should probably scale this further because this is actually modifying the defense stat, not like flat damage reduction. So this needs to scale in league with the actual attribute for the damage calculations? Will cleaning up poop be a mechanic? No. Although farming is going to be a secondary mechanic, there could be something to that. I'm not even. I can't even envision the Primal Carnage T-Rex in my head. I can't answer that question. I think we can do this like 5. Like if you take say 10 attacks over the course of a battle, and enduring was at like rank 3, that'd be plus 150 defense points. That's like enough that it matters. So we do buff on hits. Needs to be phrased for getting hit. Got hit? Sure. Buff, got hit, defense, death, specifically, because that's what we use for the internal shortcut for the stat. And this just lasts till the end of the battle. Till the end of the current fight. Prehistoric planet daughter or Jurassic World Dominion son? What kind of question is that? That would be the daughter all day, right? Uh What if we did 10? It would cap out at 30 per hit. I think 10 is too much. I think we'll do 5. I think that works. You're testing me. Ah, I see. Testing my internal fences for weakness systematically. My mental fences, is that a better joke? Maybe. All right. Then we've got the recessive passives. So these are the rares. So these should be more impactful. Theoretically more impactful. So anticoagulant saliva. This is a concept for a thing I came up with that is going to be really interesting to implement. So the idea here is that every time you do a bite attack, the target is already bleeding, it increases the bleed. So we probably follow off of serrated teeth. Would I rather eat a bug burger or a mammoth meatball? Is the mammoth meatball legally sourced? Is it ethical? Attack modifier applies to bites all. This could be a unique effect. Like, this couldn't be something we just plug in here that tells the code, hey, this is anticoagulant saliva specifically. Applies effect, bleed. Let's do this. Status scalar. bleed. Then up here where we do apply effect bleed, this will just be apply, comma, bleed. Apply, comma, bleeds. How about just scale bleed? We don't need all of this work. Yeah, okay. So, modifies bite attacks to always scale existing bleed effects. Boom. Percent chance to increase bleeds on the target by increase bleed stacks on the target by whatever. Base 0 to 10%, 1 bleed. Okay, so how do we think this compares to the coag bite, or the serrated teeth? So serrated teeth is a bite chance to add bleed, and this is a bite chance to extend bleed. The mammoth meatball is a legally and ethically cloned mammoth. Then I would go with the mammoth meatball. That's more of a story. I would prefer to eat an elephant over eating a bug in vacuum, at least. Given all choices, I would probably choose to do neither. A mammoth, like all elephants, is a little too smart for it to feel like something you can ethically eat, and I just choose not to eat a bug unless it's an ocean bug. If it's a crustacean, that's the bug exception. I guess we just give this a higher chance. Just 20% chance per bite for the anti-coag because it's rarer, and then that makes it so that if you have both traits, you have a possibly up to a 30% chance of causing a bleed, and then you have an up to 60% chance of extending the bleed and increasing it. Now, it occurs to me that we didn't actually put anything for duration. So we need to think about that. Scale and duration. So duration's in seconds. Yeah, I mean, it's possible we see a move towards like vat meat, lab grown meat, some, you know, meat that is grown without having to be part of an animal. That is the most ethical way to do it, even more than eating bugs, in my mind. Um, okay, so we want to do. Okay, we add 1 stack of bleed. We extend the duration by 1, 2, 3 seconds. Attack modifier bite all. Scale the effect. Bleed. Yes. Bleed is currently damage per second. So there's some scale value to the bleed, and there's a duration to the bleed. So you may bleed for 3 damage per second for 10 seconds, stuff like that. And then here, the serrated teeth. So this is a flat bleed value of only 1. So this is a very weak bleed. So I think in the interest of making this a viable build, this should have a fairly long duration. I think that's the most interesting way to do it. So we'll scale the duration of this bleed by 5. So 5, 10, 15-second bleed, but a fixed value of just 1. Have a chance to cause a bleed 1 for 5, 10, 15 seconds. Yeah, sure, that's fine. Okay, so that's a build right there. Passive bleed, Carnotaurus build. Next, Recessive Trait is Regenerator. This is just a simple integer-based passive heal over time effect. Oh shoot, we're missing this here. This is yeah. Percent chance, integer effect, integer effect. Same thing here. Okay. Recover 1, 2, or 3 health per second. Simple heal over time. How do we want to define this in the code? I think we want to do this where this has a base duration of like 100 seconds so that it just lasts the whole battle. We don't refer to it here, but we can classify this as just like a buff effect then. So yeah, we do this. Buff, call it immediate, and then it's just hot for the heal over time effect. So recovering 1 per second for effectively the duration of the entire battle. Regenerator, of course, is a direct Pokemon reference in terms of name label. The effect is not 1-to-1, so Nintendo can't sue me. All right, smell of blood. This is another piece of the bleed, the passive bleed build. This is giving it a bonus while the opponent is bleeding. Buff opponent bleed. Condition opponent bleed. Buff on condition got a hit. Yeah, okay. This is going to increase. I think just like every base stat. If I had a fist fight with one of every Pokemon from weakest stats to strongest, how far do I think I would get? You're gonna have to provide me the list in order of Pokemon. I'm not gonna try and figure that out. I could take a Caterpie. I could beat a Magikarp. You'll probably kill a Pidgey. Imagine it would start to get dangerous somewhere around like stage 2 starters like Charmeleon or Alligator or Croconaw. Definitely for Alligator would just kill me, right? It's like a fucking 8 foot bipedal crocodile. Fuck my shit up. So, buffing when the opponent is bleeding. Wishy-washy when it's not schooled. Yeah, you can beat a wishy-washy in a fist fight for sure. Um, Accuracy, defense, damage, evasion. How do I want this so that it's parsable? Like, I can do it this way. This would work. So we would tell it. What if we tell it? Buff already implies stats. I think this works. Volbeat? Yeah, maybe. That could be a problem. It's potentially plausible. Okay. So this should scale up. Maybe cap out at like 50-ish? Maybe 100? How about 30? 30, 60, 90 scaling? That's potentially almost a 10% bonus to all stats when the opponent is bleeding. This is a recessive trait, so this should be relevant. And this is a flat integer value, not a percentage. Okay. Could you beat Ghastly in a fight? No, by convention, right? A ghost type would also be a lose condition because I don't have any elemental attacks. All I can do is throw a fist. That's gonna miss. That's a fighting move. So yeah, I guess I lose to whatever the lowest base stat total ghost is. I think that makes sense. All right, I will be right back. Gonna take a short break, grab a new drink and stuff. So give me a couple minutes. All right. Also should check. We still got plenty of time. Okay. Next is long game. Oh, Shedinja. Sure. All right, so long games effect. Yesterday in a stream, said Ornithomimus is the best new species. Did I say this yesterday, not just today? Did I stream yesterday? No. What are we talking about? Long game is gain stats over time. So I think we do 0 to 1. Buff. Time. Core 4 stats. By 1 every second. So, in a full 60-second battle, this is plus 120 stats by the end of the fight. Oh, is another streamer. Okay. Yeah, Shedinja versus 100 lions. Very funny. Is this too good? Certainly impactful, which you like. I don't want passives to be too bland. I think we can just roll with this. So potentially 4-10% buffs by the end of the game, but only by the end of the game. You could die long beforehand. I guess the other question is, do I want to define the duration or how often this takes? I probably do. So we do 1, 0. Every 1 second. I suppose these should be in the other order for consistency. Buff, time, stat. Every 1 second increase. Yeah, okay. Start strong. I suppose yeah, you could just light a Shedinja on fire if you had a lighter, but that's outside interference. You know, that's outside the parameters of the pit fight. Yeah, Sitako's good, Loki's good, Ornithomimus is good. Those are probably my top three too. I like Guanlong quite a lot as well, though. Guanlong maybe can sneak ahead of like Sitako. I'm not sure. It's a torn between just like base aesthetics and like bonus points for the accuracy of Psittacosaurus. I think I'd kind of need to see the two in game side by side, so to speak, to really decide. So this is bonus stats for the first 10 seconds. So maybe we call this buff per tick. Buff per tick versus buff for time. For the first 10 seconds of the fight, increase accuracy, evasion, and defense by X. Elmo and Patago do have very similar vibes. Yeah, Patago's just not distinctive enough to stand out compared to everything else. Like every other new animal we got is pretty distinctive. Guanlong less so, and Patago much less so. So it definitely feels like a bit of an outlier. It's still like the best sauropod, but say 5, 10, 15 maybe for the first 5, 10, 15 seconds. Increase all stats by now I'm scaling both the duration and the value. Do I want to do that? The other problem with flat stat bonuses is it kind of undermines the stat progression. Yeah, there's something brewing with the YouTubers. It's hard to say if it's something that's they can't reveal quite yet, or if it's something they can't reveal till like release. We don't really know. Um, should I do these stat boosts percentage wise for passives? I think they have to be percentage based. Well, not necessarily, because the multiple ranks means you won't have the highest tier right away. Let's leave them alone. The multiple rank system might take care of the fact that these are flat bonuses instead of percentages. So buff, time, stats. Yep. Oh, start strong. All right, last one, True Grit. Referencing Grit from Monster Rancher, but named after a movie because funny. This is just a chance to not be killed. I think 10% chance is probably too much. I don't know what grit chance is in Monster Rancher, but I think 5, 10, 15% chance is the way to go here. Pelvic impediment. And very compelling and interesting name for a bot that's getting banned. Fascinating. Goodbye. Yeah, the Lost Species Park is going to have some. It's not going to be everything. It's going to be kind of like the things I'll miss the most, or like the notable exceptions. But yeah, it's is strange in that we'll actually probably have no Hadrosaurus in the park. Um, yeah, the Rebirth roster is kind of janky. I think Rebirth has to kind of be a campaign pack for them to sell it in a way. We're kind of approaching the roster with balance, so even though there's a lot of missing carnivores, it's not going to be strictly like all carnivores. I think we just phrase this effect as grit. We could have variations on this. There could be other categories of grit. Yeah, Tarbosaurus is not going to be in the park actually. Yeah, Styrac and Herrera are my boys that I really want that aren't in currently. Chance to stay at 1 health when you otherwise be defeated. No, we're specifically one of the specific stipulations of the park build is going to be no cut Camp Cretaceous species and no Chaos Theory species because they're probably coming back. So then there's not much to say goodbye to there, you know. Let me see if that is what I settled on for sure. Yeah, they're not in the roster. Since they probably do come back, they don't make the cut. We want to do the animals that are least likely to come back or the ones we'll miss the most that probably will come back, like Styracosaurus. That's kind of the idea there. I don't think Tarbosaurus is coming back necessarily either. I'm like agnostic. I'm a Tarbosaurus agnostic. Um, Maybe we don't see him, maybe we do. Neither will shock me, but we're still not going to include him because I don't care for him anyway. So he can be forgotten. So that's all the passives currently planned. So we need to let's clear this out. We need to add these now to the passive dictionary so that they have a permanent home in the code. And then we need to work on implementing these one at a time. And we'll have to decide exactly how we approach that. Oh my god, can I type? So this is just plugging the information we wrote up before into a master data structure. So a nested set of dictionaries, essentially. Yeah, the Therizinosaurus not being shown off yet is kind of shocking, but it's probably either because it was one of the later stage animals to be finalized in terms of design, or they are saving it as a hype moment for the upcoming weeks because there's not much else left to hype, right? Therizinosaurus is kind of the only major film animal we haven't seen. Quick recovery, comma, get the space back in there just for formatting. I thought it was about as small as I expected to be. I didn't think it was that small. Like, proportionally quite a bit larger compared to the adult versus a lot of the other animals. I mean, I just didn't expect there to be a juvenile, period, until they confirmed it a few weeks back or whatever. So I think for first level testing, maybe we just implement all of these on the Carnotaurus. Or maybe we do these one at a time. Maybe that's the better way to do it. Hey, Biocraft, I'm doing well. We're doing game dev shit. Got all sorts of plans. I like when I have an idea of what I'm working on and where it's going next, you know? Why is this one? Oh, because there's a comma missing. Comma. Cool. Okay, that's the passive dictionary. For cut herbivores, let's see what do we got in my roster. Let's see what we have here. I see one you missed already. Two animals you missed. Three missing. Yeah, there's three herbivores in my planned roster that you missed in your list. Technically four, I think, if we count a certain omnivorous fella. Yeah, a lot of aquatics dumped, which kind of makes sense though. The real question is it less aquatics than we had at launch in two? Because that would be weird. Yeah, if Theory with Theory and Obi, assuming those are both in, 4 slots left. Obi Raptor technically could be cut because it's not in the theatrical, but I don't think it will be. I think Obi Raptor makes it. Yeah, probably still one new species coming. Not guaranteed, unlike what people are saying, but I think it's essentially guaranteed. And then I'm firmly in camp Polacanthus and Huangosaurus making it in. I think since we've got their counterparts, I think they get in too. Yeah, Shonisaurus is like definitely gone. I think Dinosaurus still has a chance. Microstratus is in. It's film canon. There's no way they cut it. I think cutting animals from the recent DLCs is also problematic. So I think it's in for that reason. The shocking include would be if the final three animals are not Polacanthus and Huangosaurus and something else, but like Herrerasaurus, Segisaurus, and Proceratosaurus. If they include the classic JP brochure species, that would make me kind of happy. Make me and like 4 other people very happy to have all those in base game, and nobody else would be happy about all the small carnivores showing up. Yeah, Microstratus is confirmed, right? It was in the marketplace, right? I think so. Yeah, but I've always liked Glupshidos. My favorite Star Wars character for a long time, I said, was Bosk, the lizard bounty hunter from Empire Strikes Back, who doesn't do anything. He just stands there. He's distinctly Glupshido, but it's fine. Yeah, Herrera, on the other hand, is a man. We're gonna miss that boy. He's great. Okay, so how do we how do we want to implement these? We've got the syntax to implement them. Now the question is, where do we plug them in? Let's do this. Um, we're going to test these like 2 at a time. Boss kind of segue. Yeah, Oviraptor is still unconfirmed. Sinosauropteryx is probably cut. Very unlikely he makes it in. It'd be crazy if he did. I wouldn't object to it, but I just don't expect it. Um, let's see here. We'll ignore the baryonyx for now. Let's just say we do this. Passives. This is a list, and it's going to have in it osteoderms, and what was the first passive on my list? Steel trap. Yeah. Okay. Actually, Segisaurus also not confirmed. So there are two scavengers. Yeah, we've been streaming for a little while here doing game dev stuff, 2.5 hours. But welcome to the Streamily. You haven't missed much. It's been a lot of data entry. I've just been adding a lot of variable information to the game so that we can implement passives. So we're going to test osteoderms and steel trap. We add them here. Steel trap specifically. is a damage modifier. So for those, I think we just go to the attack function and add them there. So function resolve attack. We get the guts correction effects here. We got the hit chance, damage range. Let's look at this. Where does the dam rand end up going? So the damage randomization plugs in here. Crit mod, damage randomization, and the base damage value. So we just want to probably add a passive damage modifier. So we had PDAM. We define PDAM as 0. I think we want to define a passive check function. Yeah, it is pretty weird that no hadrosaurs are cut. No hadrosaurs being cut, no ornithomimosaurs being cut is largely why I think Polacanthus and Huangosaurus make it in. I think Camarasaurus is fairly likely too. Camarasaurus is kind of one of like 3 or 4 animals I think are likely for the last slot. The only thing with Camara is it's not as cut and paste as like Polacanthus and Huango, which is why to me it's the least likely. It's the one I could see being cut. So, hmm. Maybe. Okay, I know what to do. Yep. We put the PDAM up here. The parsing goes in here because we're already checking for the character. Oops. Thought I copied that. I just deleted it. So parse passives. I guess we pass this global.pc. Global.en. We'll do it like that, I think. And then we pass the data structures in the opposite order here, because that's where the enemy is attacking and the player is defending. I think the JPOG animals literally can't make it in now. I don't think there's any space. Some of them have to be cut. I'm pretty sure. I think we're like one slot short or something. Unless they cut like Theory or Oviraptor, which would be very unexpected, then we would definitely have enough spots, but so this is gonna return Maybe I think we just do it like this. We embed the pdam equals 0 in the function. We'll leave this here as a reminder slash safety correction thing. Because, yeah, we're doing the same thing with guts correction where it's 0 and then we're overwriting it. So if there's like a typo, at least it doesn't crash. So what else do we need? Did we crit? Crit mod. Crit mod set to 1.5. So we've got pdam, crit mod, damage randomizer, and ddam. Wait, what's ddam? I don't see it. ddam is predam plus guts core. Okay. Literally the line right above. I just didn't notice it. So pre-damage. Yeah, so this is the initial damage correct calculation, and then there's the second ddam is just the second stage correction with the guts correction in there. That's why I don't think Hoangosaurus can be cut. It'd be weird if Hoangosaurus was cut twice. Yeah, I am curious how the area needs are going to work in 3. It's probably one of the big questions I have currently. Territory decay, area need growth, area needs in general, all that stuff. How does it function? So I guess we do P crit. No, we don't. No. This goes. No, crit damage doesn't change, so this doesn't. We don't need a thing here. We do need crit chance. So parse the passives and see if we have extra crit is relevant. So we do need P crit. And then the crit chance is global attack crit plus P crit. And P crit defaults to 0. I mean, I'm just buying the game at release because it's, the thing to do for me for the channel. But I think waiting is a responsible choice for sure. I expected 3 to to be a little bit more feature complete at release than 2 was, because 2 was much more of a 2 played rather differently than 1. 3 looks like it plays exactly the same as 2. So I don't expect there to be as many missing systems in 3. The thing with the carnivore roster is it's really bloated by film carnivores. So there's just not much room if they want a balanced roster to bring back non-film carnivores. Okay, so we got the crit chance. Hit 1, hit 2. Where do we pull accuracy? Attacker damage, attacker defense, attacker accuracy, defender evasion. Damage, defense, accuracy, evasion, name 2, attacker. So these are numbers I'm already parsing here. The no hit chance. Did we hit as a 0? So where do we parse did we hit? Here we go. Hit chance. Yeah, so a bonus chance to hit would be here. So we can just plug in a number. That works like that. I think the most plausible way to make a Rebirth DLC is just to like essentially have a hey, we're taking over this island to take care of the dinosaurs on it. It'd be like a very generic kind of dinosaur preserve type scenario. It's going to be really hard to make a DLC for Rebirth that feels like anything special. Yeah, Rebirth doesn't add anything to a park aesthetic. It's very much adventure movie on an island, so it is a problem. Do we ever modify crit mod anywhere? Like, is that a thing? I don't think currently we do. So don't think I'll add it. We do need damage reduction as a separate mechanic. Let's see what else we're missing here. So we got the bonus damage. This is percentage. We need to think about that. I think Okay, if we're passing through both the passives, ooh, this critical hits do matter here. The thought process with the game is kind of an iterative development process. I want to get a vertical slice that covers all the mechanics and then kind of decide how I go about it from there. Maybe we, try and cook something up for like an early access proper release, or maybe we do like a 1.0 full release thing. I haven't put too much thought into the game as an actual sellable product per se, because I want to get the vertical slice done so that I can let some people play test it and get some feedback before I get my hopes up or invest too much more into the game, right? Okay, so we do need to account for this. So the way we do that is somehow. All right. Well, already see some things that need to change. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense for an indie game to release more like Prehistoric Kingdom with like a early access, like kind of essentially a sold beta, right? You're making people pay for an incomplete game, but they understand that and know that. Yeah, no, we're gonna this game as it stands right now, $60 right out of the box. Let's go. Hell yeah. Okay, so we're passing along the attacker info, the defender info. We probably just want to pass along all of these: attacker damage, defender defense, attacker accuracy, defender evasion. Name 2 and attacker. We don't need to pass attacker, that's already implied. Name 2, I believe, is the attack name. Yeah. We'll just pass this all along into the function. I don't see any reason not to carry that info forward. When we have like this more finalized, we can delete some of this if it's redundant. Thoughts on the Nintendo Switch 2? None. I haven't thought much about it at all. I barely use my Nintendo Switch. It's just a Pokemon machine for me. And all the Pokemon games are cross-platform, and Pokemon game performance is miserable in general. So like, I don't really care. I'm definitely not going to shell out a bunch of money for a Switch 2 just to play a marginally better version of a Pokemon game. I'll tell you that much. Okay, so if we're passing all this information along, right? We can turn the percent damage modifier from a passive into a damage bonus in the form of PDAM. So we got that covered. The only thing we need is how to handle the damage reduction, which can also be included in PDAM. That can go negative. But specifically, there's a possibility of crits, which bypass damage reduction in the case of osteoderms. So how do we account for that? Because at this stage in the code, we don't know if we crit. What if we just calculate crits ahead of time? Is that fine? Oh, but no, these will affect crits too. This is all done in one batch. We can't roll for crit until after this is parsed. So I think we just export two values. Maybe. Like we just add in a PDR for the passive damage reduction as a separate attribute that is exported. We should start labeling these. The other ones are pretty self-explanatory, so we'll just label that one. Do I think you'll be able to castrate animals in Evo 3? Chemically, you can, right? You can actually provide contraceptives to your animals so they don't get it on. Well, I guess they would still get it on. They just wouldn't reproduce. Yeah. Literally the worst punishment you could be dealt out. Especially if it's the little judge hammer. That wouldn't be good. So PDR. Now, if we go to, if we crit, now the question is, I think we can always assume PDR to be crit dependent, because if it's a non-crit dependent damage reduction effect, which currently doesn't exist, we can just integrate that directly into the damage numbers. So I think we just do this. If crit, PDR is now 0. And then we go to the damage value. Yeah, okay. We do have this like hard code 50% modifier to damage here. I forgot about this. So this should be moved outside. That's what we should do. This should just be here. Also, this should be additive. Yeah. PDAM plus this. Yep. Okay. So, and then minus PDR. P damage minus PDR plus whatever this damage calc comes out to be currently. All subject to change. The damage formula is placeholder. Okay, so that's there. Did we actually put the P hit effect in? So P hit 0, P hit returned, P hits applied as an additive? Yes. Yeah, because this should be a percentage. Modified by accuracy and evasion, and then modified by guts correction, and then an additive hit chance. What's a console I thought I needed but felt redundant to buy? I've owned very few consoles in my time. The last console I bought before I bought a Nintendo Switch was a PlayStation 2. So I have never regretted a console purchase because I've almost never bought a console. I'm a PC boy through and through. What is the likelihood an official Pokemon Zoo game is made? Not a bad idea. I think it's possible because they're doing a cozy Pokemon farming game. So I could see them do a Safari Zone game, right? Build your own Safari Zone park builder. I could see that. I 100% could see that being a game that exists. I've considered like buying a PlayStation 3. That's where I'm at. I'm like, is it finally time to make the jump from PS2 to PS3? But I haven't bothered, especially nowadays. Like a lot of older console games get PC ports, and like I got so many games I want to play anyway that I don't really care if I miss out on like a Last of Us or something. Whatever. And P crit is just bonus crit chance, so that is additive to whatever this percent value is. Okay, so that's all good. So other passives. Yeah, no, ports are definitely a mixed bag traditionally. But like usually a bad port for a popular game will have some pretty good fan patches and fixes out there to like clean it up. And I'm somebody who's very comfortable with modding. Um but like odds are I might want to mod a game anyway. So perfectly happy to play a really dog shit port with a good modding community. Like I play Fallout 4 VR, which is like one of the worst official ports of a game to another medium that exists. Fallout 4 VR is hot fucking trash. It is borderline unplayable. But the modding community is committed enough that they fixed that game. And it required so much fucking effort to get that game to be playable. Like literally the modding situation for Fallout 4 VR to get it playable is like 100 modless minimum. It's just insane. It is like I don't know how Bethesda could sell Fallout 4 VR and get away with it. And it's still like full price. Like I don't know how this doesn't just sink the reputation as a company and more than it already is. Cuz it's wild. Yeah, maybe all the PS3s will be dead soon and I can't even get one if I want. Okay, so we got this chance to apply bleed effects. And we also have the chance to extend bleeds. Let me find a piece of scrap paper, start taking some notes here, IRL, for what needs to be implemented. Okay, here's a past due notice for a bullshit toll fee from some dog shit state or another. Pennsylvania. I was right. It's a dog shit state. I'll use this. Is our note. taking sheet. Yeah, fighting piracy goes too far in a lot of cases for sure. Um, Definitely a mess. So we need to percent chance on hit effects, which will be bleed and extend bleed. Yeah, dude, EA getting bought out by the fucking Saudis is crazy. That was not on my bingo sheet. I had no idea EA was in trouble financially. That's crazy. I'm just happy I'm not like invested in any EA franchises because I don't have to give a shit. I mean, to be fair, I'm not invested in many video game franchises, period. Pokemon, JWE, Alien games, XCOM. I guess Fallout. You know, always hold out hope for another New Vegas tier Fallout game to happen. Could happen. Yeah, EA and Activision have been shit for so long that it's kind of like unremarkable when more shit happens. We need the status resistances. Stamina modifiers will have to happen elsewhere. So we'll just make a big circle status mod thing to come back to much later because that won't happen in the damage functions. Yeah, health below threshold stuff is also that's timer stuff. Let's do timer stuff as well. Big circle. So that's this. Critical hits generate stamina. We need aggressive. So we need like some sort of flag for this. Enduring. Yeah, enduring's kind of something too to look at. Might come back to enduring later. Like, we don't want to implement all of these maybe until we make sure the ones we have implemented work. So right now we're implementing Steel Trap and Osteoderm specifically, and both of those are already functional in theory. Anticoagulants level we covered. Regenerators time based, so that's just yeah, covered. Smell of blood. Yes, we need this. So we could export. Actually, we could trigger. No, this should be handled on a tick by tick basis. This is time based. Smell of blood is just handled by the upkeep code, not on an attack level, especially because this is modifying base stats. Do we have hadrosaurs and ornithomimids in the game? Yes, on both. So the plan is to have weight classes, heavy weights and light weights, and to represent basically all dinosaur families eventually. So I want hadrosaurs and ornithomimids in the game especially. I want hadrosaurs absolutely trampling and bodying other dinosaurs, and I want ornithomimids like kicking the shit out of things. Kind of a vision there. Oh yeah, yeah. Tough forever being a carnivores fan. I was going to say tough time for a carnivores fan, but has ever not really been a tough time for a carnivores fan. Long game, more time based. That'll be handled by that upkeep code. Same with start strong and true grit. This doesn't go in the attack calc. This goes this we'll stick a pin in true grit. We'll come back to this when we rework the end of battle code, because the end of battles right now is a shit show. So we should look at this. Yeah, in my head canon for the game, like I envision hadrosaurs with kind of a hippo vibe of just being like big walls of meat that take no shit and will go on the offensive and just chase you down and trample you to death if they can. And then ornithomimosaurs just, probably taking realistically what they could do, given that they do still have claws and could probably kick pretty good. So I don't think you need to even embellish or add a vibe to ornithomimosaurs if you're being realistic. They probably fucked up similar sized animals that they couldn't outrun, or just because maybe they felt like it. Yeah, hippo vibe in terms of like aggression, not in terms of like semi-aquaticness. To be clear, um, yeah. I have like different levels of development for the concepts of some animals. Like my Herrerasaurs are fully developed, and we're not going to reveal those right now. But other things like hadrosaurs are kind of more generic. Like this is generically what I feel like the vibe is for hadrosaurs, as opposed to like this is what a Parasaurolophus is like versus like a Corythosaurus. So there's varying levels of like thought into what some of the animals do, vibe wise. No underwater combat, no aquatics. I mean, we have Spinosaurids as like a core class essentially, but without there really being any water interaction. Maybe there'll be a few moves that reference water or whatever. Like, I mean, we have Death Roll on Baryonyx, right? So that's kind of a semi-aquatic like reference, but that's as far as it goes. In our canon, it's very much particular that archosaurs are being cloned specifically. That's kind of the deal. Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about things that are planned until I'm actually like working on them, right? Especially when it comes to like concepts and like lore bits and stuff. No point of giving the game away, right? Okay, so back to the attacks, right? The big thing we need to implement that's missing now is the status effect, the chance to add status effects. Also want to look at this quick. So this status handler, this specifically just where we store the timers. So this doesn't really do anything else. Pokemon but better. It's pretty different than Pokemon. It's intended to be Monster Rancher but better. But Pokemon's not a crazy comparison, but it's not the closest thing. I do intend to have like tag battles. So tag battles would be something that move it a little closer to a Pokemon vibe, away from Monster Rancher, and that you can switch out, one guy for another, but mechanically it's not that Pokemon-ish. Like from the outside, it's gonna look like that kind of game, I guess, but if you get into the nitty-gritty of the genre. So, do we just want to add like a flag here, maybe? Like export a value as a 0 or 1 to say that there's an on-hit effect, maybe? And then if it happens, we go back and we check. What if there's multiple? Okay. I think I know how we do this. I think we do call it P effect. This is like a 0-1 flag. This is basically saying, this is telling the code that whether or not there is the possibility for an on hit trigger to fire. Crocs are not ruled out, but they're not planned. That's the current status of that. For release, it is strictly dinosaurs, but in the lore, it's archosaurs, right? So like pterosaurs will exist in this world, but you can't actually train in battle with pterosaurs because functionally it just doesn't make sense. Both like mechanically with like a flying animal in arena is awkward, and then they're made of tissue paper and balsa wood, and they would explode the second they're hit. So we do this, and then did we hit if hit if attacker is enemy, then well there is this. Did we status do status? Can I hijack this code? No, this is applying the status effects. I think we better write our own another different function. Now there's the possibility distinctly that there may be acquirable traits in the game that come from other animals. So even though you can't raise, say, a Quetzalcoatlus for battle, there is the possibility you might be able to acquire Quetzalcoatlus genome data for some sort of effects that you can apply to one of your animals. The part of the idea here is that there will be gene sequence gaps in every animal if you don't have a complete genome that you can kind of plug with other genes. You know, you can chuck your frog DNA in there, and that will add different effects to the animal, different passives, different attacks. It's kind of a riff on like the TM system from Pokemon in a way as well. It's like part equipment system, part TM system. Like, yeah. So there's a lot of potential for squeezing in some other little bits of like things that would exist in the universe in terms of lore and flavor can be squeezed into the genetic gene sequence gap system to like integrate that into the game without it like requiring a big overhaul of like the mechanics, right? So you might see, you know, croc genes that you can insert into your animal to give it like scoots or something for like extra defense, that kind of shit. Not saying that's actually going to happen, that's just a possibility. Okay, so this is the chance of applying. It would be separate. So I think we just plug it in kind of in here, wherever. Um, so did we apply passive effects? And we feed this to some sort of function, like do passive effect. Like that. But then we comment this out because we're not implementing this tonight. So this will function essentially in the same way that you can apply a normal status effect on hit, but it'll be kind of like any other effect. And it'll just be reported. And this should be also embedded in like if an if check. So this should be like if, what do we call it? P effect, I think. So it should just be if P effect. Because it follows 0-1 logic. I assume that works in Game Maker. Should just be that. And then we'll comment out this whole section for the future. Okay. So we got that. I need to check on my gym buddy. Are you in chat there, Garrett? Or did you leave chat? We'll message you on Discord. Okay. So we got the effects, damage reduction, crits, damage, and hit. These are all implemented here. They just don't exist because this function does not exist yet. So now we need to define this guy. I guess we'll just stick it right here. Okay, we will be going to the gym tonight, so I do need to wrap the stream up soon. Oops, not equals. So function, parse passive, taking in the attacker, defender, the damage of the targeting attack. Let's not capitalize this. The defender's defense, the attacker's damage. Let's just call this attacker's stats, because that way we remember this is like everything. This is not like a label for who is attacking defending. This is all the info of the attacker, all the info of the defender, the damage of the particular attack chosen, the defense of the particular thing being attacked, the accuracy, the evasion, the name of the attack. So yeah. If there were dinosaurs, people should be taking seriously. What species would it be? Like if dinosaurs were still alive or something? I mean, any large carnivore. I mean, anything, even like yeah, even like a fairly small, bird could fuck you up. Like you could kill a velociraptor in a 1v1 fight, but also like if you weren't paying attention, a velociraptor could chew the shit out of you if it got the jump on you. The people get fucked up by like geese and roosters sometimes. So I think a lot of species would have to be taken seriously. Okay, so we need to return these values: p effect, pdr, pdam. Let's just do this. So at a bare minimum, currently the game syntax should work. Let's just make sure this doesn't bug out before we go any further. Script at line 118 got return expected a brackets. Yes. Okay, this is exactly what we're looking for. Syntax errors before we actually implement anything. I forgot the brackets. Script align assignment operator expected. Line 138. Assignment was expected. Oh, because I'm returning multiple things. From one function. Right. That doesn't work, obviously. Yes. I should have realized this. Because return by definition like exits the function. Oh, like taken more seriously. Sure, yeah. Yeah, definitely like Hadrosaurs and Nethymimids are like habitually under respected. Like they don't get the respect they really deserve. Okay, so we just do return a list of pdam, p crits, p hits, pdr, p effects. Does this syntax work? It looks like it works. And then that becomes p list. Sure, p list. And then we do this. Okay, we're gonna finish this. Once we get the game to load, we're done with stream. That's the plan. I need to leave, but I don't want to leave the code non-functioning. Because it's just gonna be worse later. Yeah, I am definitely Team Shantung. I think Shantung will happen eventually, at least. I think this is the syntax for handling lists in GameMaker, right? It's like Pythonic syntax. So this should just separate back out all the variables we've exported. I think this works. Like, basically my strategy for GameMaker here is always just do Pythonic syntax and then see if it runs. Boom! Okay, let's see if the game crashes. Hey, we're winning for once. That's crazy. It's not gonna last. Yeah, there it goes. Now the bleed's on us. We're screwed. We're just gonna play out through the end of the battle. Oh man. We're cooked. Back him into the corner. That's all we can do. We died. F's in chat for our boy Katoblipas. He couldn't do it. Okay, yeah, so that is the end. Save it. Save off a backup somewhere else. 9/11/2025. You know what? We'll do this later. It's fine. It's saved. I need to back up offsite, so we'll do that some other time. Yeah, he did not perform, but that's okay. He's gonna get trained up. He'll do better. We'll do better later. Yeah, I think a new Hadrosaur will be DLC that we'll see down the road. I don't think we're getting anything at launch at this point. So I'm gonna at some point, probably after we have the full species list, I'll do like a video with DLC predictions, and you can count on Shantungosaurus being on that list pretty high up because I think it's a very prime candidate for DLC. But anyway, that'll be it for the stream. I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for sticking by, watching me type